Today, we're going to be covering how to build a strong body that is resilient to injury. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Brandon Parker. I am a chiropractor and strength coach. And over the last 5 years, I've helped clients build strength and mobility in ways that they can actually start to trust their body again and enjoy the things they're doing without second guessing themselves. And I thought to myself, how do I make this video as practical and actionable as possible? Because so many people watch videos and they go, that was super valuable, but nothing changes. And if nothing changes, was it really valuable? In my world, I feel like it's almost useless because you've wasted the time watching the video and nothing changed. So I'm hoping that this video can be the change that you are looking for. Okay. But in order for me to do that, I feel like you have to have some solid understandings before I give you the practical action steps here. With the first one being, how does your body get injured? When does it get injured? And how do we start to create an environment where your body is less likely to be injured in the future? And I think it starts off with understanding that your body will get injured or has a lot higher likelihood of getting injured when stress is higher than its capacity. And stress and capacity comes in different forms. For example, you can be the world's strongest person, but if you are doing an activity that requires endurance, well, just because you have strength in one facet doesn't mean that you have the endurance to meet that demand. For example, let's say you are going on an 8-mile hike, or you are holding a kid all day long because they don't want to be set down. That is a circumstance where muscles are being placed underneath a challenge for long durations of time, and there's no break. That is a different demand than the secondary approach that I have here, or the secondary stress here, which would be, let's say, the absolute stress. With the absolute stress, that is how much can you lift, right? I can lift 100 pounds off the ground, but that doesn't transfer too well to being able to hike for 8 miles. And then also another aspect of stress that we have to consider is positional stress. So just because I'm strong and I have endurance in certain positions, what about the ones that I'm not training? What in my real life do I do that I'm not training for? A common one that I hear is I'll go garden for the entire day where I'm in a deep, awkward squat all day, and then I'm just debilitated for the week after that. Well, that tells me that your spine, your hips, your knees weren't prepared for that positional stress. Now, of course, let's be fair here and say that these stresses don't happen in a vacuum. My example that I just gave, where you're in a deep squat all day gardening, that's a little bit of an endurance stress and a positional stress. But the reason why we put it into these buckets is just so you can start to simplify and conceptualize how we should be looking at movement. Because the days of saying this movement is dangerous is old, it's not factual. It all comes down to, am I prepared for the activity that I want to do? And if we start to look at that activity and break it down into these components, then you start to realize, oh, you know what? I could probably build a little bit more endurance in that position versus I'll never do that position again. It's dangerous and not good for my body, right? One is going to give you resilience. The other one is actually going to progressively get you weaker and more prone to injury. So understanding how stress comes in different ways, we also got to know that we need to build capacity specific to those stresses. The last piece that I wanted to cover here when it comes to stress is the external factors. You have to remember that you can be the world's strongest person, most mobile person, somebody that can run a marathon. But if you're not sleeping, if you're chronically stressed, your nutrition's going to be affected, your sleep's going to be affected, your heart rate is always going to be elevated, and you're never going to recover. If you cannot recover, it doesn't matter what your body's capable of, because you are going to be living in a suboptimal state. For example, I can lift 100 pounds when I'm fresh. If I haven't slept in a week, I probably can't touch 100 pounds, right? So that fourth factor, which deserves a whole video on itself, is also equally important. Okay. So understanding that that's how stress is placed on our body, the question becomes, how do we build capacity? How do we build resilience to this stress? And the analogy that I love to use is, how do we get a tan? Looking at the camera right now, you or me right now, I'm a pasty Irishman. If I think about the sun, I'll get burnt. But if I were to ask you, how do I get a tan? Chances are you're not going to tell me, go out into the sun for the next 8 hours and just wait. Because you and I both know I'll come back in like a lobster and with damaged skin. And that's because I allowed the stress of the sun to hit my skin, and my capacity to take on that stress was lower. So then my skin is injured. This is no different than how we should be approaching exercise. If I know that my lower back is injury prone, I shouldn't be going into a workout just throttling my lower back, picking exercises that are going to either involve it directly or indirectly. I should be more precise. I should be picking the exact dosage that my lower back needs to adapt to get stronger, but not so much that I run the risk of injury. So back to my analogy when it comes to getting a tan, instead of just one day going out there for 8 hours, instead what I'll do is I'll go out for maybe 15 minutes, come back in, wait a day, go back out again for 15 minutes, and build that frequency. And as I get more tan, I can actually stay out there longer. And just like how we're working out, it starts off at small bite-sized pieces, and then it expands as our strength does. That's why I love this analogy, because it really does work well when it comes to building strength and resilience. So now let's put it all together in some real life examples. Right here, looking at this graph, you have a couple of zones here. You have a green zone, you have a yellow zone, and you have a red zone. If we were to just make some assumptions, anything in the red is going to be past your capacity. Anything in the green is well within your capacity. And that yellow area is going to be contextualized, or it depends. For example, maybe I can do some yard work here if I get some good rest, right? Or it's going to challenge me, but I'm not going to do so much where my body is going to regret it, right? And the reason why I like to put it here is because everybody has this in their own right. They know they can pick up maybe a laundry basket off the ground. They know that perhaps they can sit in a crisscross position on the floor for maybe like an hour, but past that, they might be getting into that red zone where they run the risk of lingering symptoms or injury. And as we look at this, if we want to start getting these yellow activities or even these red activities into the green, it's a simple equation of building that capacity. So looking at the top left corner here where it says deadlifting at 200 pounds, well, maybe 200 pounds is in the red, but maybe 75 pounds is going to be in the green. Maybe 125 is in the yellow. And the more we spend time in the green and yellow at the proper dosage, you'll notice that the green zone will begin to grow and that red zone will start to shrink. And that is how we build capacity, and that is how we actually prevent injury. If we aren't hanging out in a yellow zone for all the time, and if we're not doing things in the red zone, your chance of injury are very low. And that's why it's our goal to build as much strength as we can specific to the activities that you love to do. I'm hoping I'm painting a really good picture here as to why we get injured and the capacity that we need to build in order to live our best life. Now I'm going to zoom out here and go over to what we should be doing. So If you notice the color coordination, I did a really good job here and I matched the colors. So, where do we start if we're trying to build a body that is resilient to injury? Well, we have to look at the demands that we want to place on it. Here's a picture of our client, Jennifer. She wanted to go hiking. So when we were working with her, we were asking ourselves, how do we build positional stress, or I should say capacity, and our endurance capacity so she can climb up these steep mountain ranges? Or perhaps you are somebody that's sick and tired of looking like you're doing an Olympic move, getting up off the ground because you have to use all limbs of your body. Well, then we have to think to ourselves, how do we get strong in this deep bend or knee bend position? That's for positional stress. Or maybe it's absolute strength. Here is a picture of our client, Catherine, who is trying to get her first push up. Well, the demands of this would be, well, she needs core strength, she needs shoulder stability, and of course, she needs strong pecs. So when we actually get specific on the activities that we want to achieve, or at least place stress on our body with on a regular basis, then we start to understand how we need to prepare. But that's not the only step here. We then have to go into creating a baseline. We understand where we want to go, but where are we starting? Right? Where are we starting on this journey? Well, if I want to start hiking, can I stand on one leg without my hips dropping? Can I stand on one leg without my legs quivering, or I feel like I'm going to lose my balance? Creating that understanding of your starting point not only is going to give you an extreme amount of clarity, but clarity in sense of where we're going to go next with your progression of exercise, but also it gives you an opportunity to celebrate. There are so many people that are on the right track of building the body that they want, but they don't have enough reference points, so they end up psyching themselves out. But if you build this roadmap and you say, you know what, I started here and now I'm actually hiking again, you have those data points to reinforce the behavior that you're doing. So just to connect some dots here, you have Jennifer who wants to go hiking without her lower back and hips bothering her anymore, and that is an endurance-based stress. So how do we start with that endurance-based stress? Well, we set a baseline of, can you stand on one leg for a minute? And if the answer is yes, awesome, then we're going to scale it up. But if the answer is no, at least we know that this is where she should be starting, and we're not going to metaphorically put her out in the sun for the next 8 hours. We're going to give her just enough so she can adapt. And when you have the end point in the starting position, you can start to create milestones. So maybe it starts off with a single leg hold, but then it goes into the star balance drill. As you see my mom here performing it and I'm watching, this is a drill where you stand in the middle of the star and you reach out into each of the directions to challenge your hip and knee stability. And of course, if you do it long enough, then we can start building endurance on top of that as well. As you can see, if we are getting strong here, that would naturally progress into similar stresses that hiking would do. Of course, there would be more milestones between the start and finish, and I would say more the better, so you can just celebrate more wins, but this gives you an idea. Going down to our want to get up off the floor without any type of extra effort. Maybe it starts off with just making sure you have the ability to get into that deep knee bend, ankle bend without anything hurting. You can maybe do a knee rock like I'm demonstrating here in order for you to test that. If this feels good, if this feels easy, then perhaps we should load it. And there'd be multiple milestones between this one, but then it probably goes into something like this. A rear foot elevated split squat. This would probably look crazy to a lot of you, but of course, once again, there is going to be more milestones before this, so this would be the natural next step. But you can see that if I can load this deep knee position, this will naturally make this easy as, I should say, pretty effortless, right? And then last but not least, we have push-ups. Maybe it starts off with a countertop push-up. Maybe you're just trying to figure out the move and build skill, right? But then that can progress into lowering the surface that you're pressing off of. And now you're doing an incline push-up with blocks, like as you see there. And then as you get stronger, you work your way down to the floor and let gravity load you in the way that you can. And the idea of this is this. If you want to build a body that's injury resistant and you want to move effortless, the equation becomes, how do we build much more capacity than the stresses that I'll ever place on my body? If you can lift 200 pounds, something that's 50 pounds is going to be significantly easier if you can only, instead of if you can only lift 100, right? So the more specific strength or adaptation that you have towards the stress that you're preparing for, the better. I hope this makes sense. I hope this connects some of the dots for you. You can build a body that is strong and reliable. It just takes a roadmap that makes sense to you.